Okay, then I'll go through it, and then there's a diagram I was trying to finish that I'm still working on. It'll only take a second, but I'll clean it up when we get there.
Maybe something we should do is, maybe that's unrelated, but we have a base diagram, and I see that you copied the diagram for claims in your latest Medium article. Claims and arguments, or support, as we call it.
I didn't grab what you had. I kind of reconstructed it, but and simplified it too. Yeah.
That also needs to be updated, right? Based on
that's what discussion. I'm saying.
And the updated version is pretty much the one you wrote in Medium, I think, at least something very similar to that.
You mean the one with the abstract parent class?
Yeah, because we don't have that in the model, which is the one that we've been incrementally working on these meetings, right, on Tuesdays?
I think right now our discussion is not in sync with the model, and I'm afraid that we've discussed many things and agreed with different things along the way, and I'm not sure we have a coherent. I don't think we agree. I'm not sure we agree at this point. I think we agree on many things in principle, but I'm not sure we agree on the model, and I think anchoring our discussion in the model might be a good exercise as well.
True, but I would say also that some of our disagreement and some of the evolutions are because we jumped ahead. A lot of the agreement was based on what we'd done so far, knowing that we would introduce new things. For example, the question of, is statement optional? Are we going to auto-generate a statement? All those sorts of things are kind of features kind of further down the road. Maybe the statement being optional in the argument text is something that we said before, and that can be incorporated into the model easily. And then, I don't know if you want to do next steps from there well, anyway, I agree. Let's go back and take a look at the model. So you show the model, and let's get on the same page.
I don't think we're that far away, really. It's more like heading towards what you wrote in Medium, and I think I have one small comment or something, but nothing major.
But yeah, it's one of those things. I imagine it'll be really quick, and we know those are famous last words.
But I'm also fine with shelving this, but I thought the point was that we incrementally build on a model we agree on, and at this point I just highlighted problems with the previous one, the last meeting, and it seems like we came to a conclusion on that, so why not model that?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to do. Let me set things up. Sorry, it'll take a few seconds.
Yeah. The only reason, I'm kind of abandoning my own process is because my process was meant to get us somewhere in the light of us going in circles, and I think we're on a good run right now without it, which is why I've kind of abandoned it temporarily. But I do agree. Let's go back and revisit the model and straighten that up a little bit.
Took this. Okay. What's your problem? Okay, so that's there. And I want sorry, I'm just setting up my screen and everything. And didn't mean connecting the second screen, which makes my computer ridiculously sluggish. I'm so annoyed with that. So looking forward to a new computer. Beach ball, beach ball, beach ball.
Yeah, your video's very jerky right now.
No,
CPU.
And I can't do anything right now. My computer is it's
all right.
Think that adding a screen would just mean, you know what, I'll forget about the second screen. It doesn't work. I have to assume I have only one screen. Sorry, it's going to be more awkward, but right now the second screen doesn't work. That's ridiculous.
It's funny, we can really.
I keep thinking, oh, I'll plug it for this because Zoom is a good case where I want 2 screens, and then I'm like, nope, forget it. By the way, are we recording?
We are. It's cloud recording. It's always recording.
I'm sorry about it. Okay. Oh, no. Okay, it's recovering slowly. And then I want
should I just start showing the diagram so we can start talking while you load? Let me see.
Yeah, I'm there now. I'm there now. Sorry, it took all this time, but share screen. Share screen, and this is Kaplan, not this. So this is the state of things.
I mean, the disjunction conjunction thing was something experimental, right? We didn't agree.
Yeah, and compound claim is also something we haven't agreed on.
Yeah, true.
I think. Yeah.
Yes, and
we're taking it as a layer 2 type thing. Yeah.
My intuition now, and I'm curious as the first point of agreement, disagreement, is I agreed to compound claim because people will enter informal compound claims, and we have to say this informal compound claim is replaced by this formal compound claim. But I would not put formal compound claims as premises. I would just have multi-premise argument. Compound claim is just an artifact of progressive formalization in my mind.
Yeah, and that's where I disagree, because for one of the things I've come across or we've seen in practice is that we want compound claims to be composable, and it's unless you're going to start making composable multi-premise supports, which we don't have a structure for, I find that to be complicated.
Okay, and my attitude to that is saying I'm doing a new compound claim with the new list, and I'm saying this compound claim with one more element replaces the previous one with a single with one element less. And my objection to compound claim composition is that compound claim composition is order dependent, and we lose canonicality in Tim's sense of canonicality.
I don't think it's order dependent unless the claim itself is order dependent, because a set is a set. A set is unordered.
Yes, I agree totally.
Compound claim,
okay,
it may be in the details that you have to compare. You have to sort before you compare, but that's normal.
What I'm saying is, if we compose compound claims, we have. And I want to say A.
I got it. You create a tree. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, and that means, associativity. Either I've put an and between A and B, and then I end that with C, or I've put an and between B and C, and I've end that with A, or even I've put an and between A and C, and I end that with B. So there's 3 different trees for the same A and B and C formula, and that's non-canonical.
Yeah, I would say that's a separate discussion, like a future discussion, as opposed to our purpose at the moment, which is just go back to the very beginning of our simple model and restructure that.
Is that what you mean by composability? First, let's check that. Sorry, I'll insist.
Yes, it is, except that I might, for example, be interested in including in the formalization an optimization in that, which means A and B and C is the same as A and B and C, and therefore require that you just turn that into an A and B and C compound claim, and then you've eliminated the tree
which problem, is exactly what I'm proposing. And then we don't have compound, in which case we don't need compound claim composition.
Well, that's something else that would need to be seen, because you need it when you have more than one rule going on. We'd have to look at, because formulas are composable, right? Formulas are composable.
Yeah, But what I'm saying,
yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
The composition gives you a new formula, which is not necessarily the compound of the original formula. It's formally the composition of the previous formula, but I wouldn't retain it as a composition of formula.
Well, sort of. I mean, okay, A and B or C is already an example where that doesn't work. You need composition.
Yeah, and by the way, and what I've kept saying about A and B or C, those are two supports. A and B is a support, and C is a support, and you get disjunctive normal form by saying either we have conjunctive compound multi-premise arguments which are conjunctive, and if you have a disjunction, just create another support.
Yeah, I think that works at the simple, like first level of nesting. I'm not sure if that works if you're nesting further than a first level, unless you replace
in propositional calculus,
right?
any compound formula can be reduced to disjunctive normal form. That's the point.
Okay, I'll have to restudy that theorem. I haven't looked
that's
at it
why
in a
it's
long
a
time,
normal
so.
form. Yeah.
No, I understand. Okay, I'll accept that. So can we go back to the simple?
Yes, hide the compound claims. So that's
yeah.
This is in the way. It's even more in the way now, but now let me put it here. So let me comment this out. So this is our basic. And what you had, let me recheck the.
Open the Medium article. Oh yeah, there it is.
That works. Claim, statement, conclusion, extends, premise. Yes. And I'm saying once you have this.
You need a new one though with the abstract, the latest one, the resolution further down in the article.
Right.
Okay. Well, let me read it and see if I agree with it.
Oh, you haven't read this excellent post yet?
Wow.
I know the author personally. He did a really good job.
Yeah.
We should invite him to the group, I guess.
The claims
Just get to the picture.
Yeah, it's just at the bottom.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
So it's in a diagram form, what we pretty much semi-concluded last meeting, I think. Give or take. So one thing I'm unclear on is why 0 to 1 in statement. Oh no, yeah.
It's like
okay.
Optional, right?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. But so if you provide a statement there, it's not argument text, right? It's an alternate for A supposed to be. It's like, yeah, however you want.
No, it would be, well.
That's the one thing I wanted to talk about.
I mean, yeah, so the function, the feature that I would want this to support, the reason I'd want a user to enter text is not for when you're looking at it, the support as a claim.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm all for that being auto-generated, right? What I would want it to be is what you display when you're looking at it as an argument. When you're looking at the support rather than looking at the claim, right? I would want it to show the optional statement. And if that optional statement is not there, I would want it to use the statement from its premise.
Yes, but I mean, again, that text you want to see is an alternate representation of the premise. So it needs to be an extra field on support, which is like, yeah, that's the
Why
argument
an extra
text.
field? It is an extra field on support right there. It's a field on support.
Oh yeah, because you removed statement from abstract claim now, but that means that statement and support and claim are two separate statements.
What about having a
support and claim are two separate statements, right? Support, I mean, they're separate instances,
so, okay.
Separate classes.
What about having a support method in abstract claim? Not a field, a method.
Statement.
A support statement.
Statement method, you mean, right? Support method.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying let's have a method, an abstract claim that gives you the support. And if it's claim, we use the claim statement field. And if it's
What do you mean
support,
that gives you the support?
Gives you the
sorry, that gives you the statement. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
if you scroll down, if you scroll down a little further, no, it must be further down. Somewhere further down, there's
yes, exactly.
This is statement as a
Okay, yeah. So this is the one that I agree with, I guess. Argument text statement string. Yes, argument text is option. Yeah, I would. So then I don't think I had any comments, did I? Text. No,
Okay.
this seems okay.
I don't have major objections. I have a question. Are the non-abstract claims always atomic claims?
Yeah, that's something we need to talk about, and then we come back to the compound claim discussion, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's for now. If you just agree that this represents the resolution of last meeting, I think we're good to go.
I think it resolves that. Yes.
I have no objection to this. Let me write this down.
We actually agree.
Well, we spent the full meeting on it.
And like I was trying to say in the article, I think our disagreements were not real disagreements. I think it was misunderstandings.
Yep, exactly. That's also what I wanted to mention. Very often we think that we know what the other one means, and then we start criticizing, but usually that first assumption wasn't correct. And then we're like just going back and forth without any substance. So I think we need to take more time if someone presents something that doesn't make sense to us, to try to understand it so that we can see it from their perspective, that it can make sense.
Yeah, and diagrams, it might help to pause and okay, draw it for me. When it can be done through, if it's a modeling dispute, right? Show me the model you're talking about, and then
exactly, yeah.
Now, one thing, looking at what we had. Oh, sorry, I have to put stuff at the support. Argument text string 01. We had that.
So in this model, why I always highlight UI and models are so much intertwined. I mean, the model simply supports UI. The model that we have there requires the user, whenever they add a claim, to always add a context-free text. And it's perfectly possible to model something where they only can enter the argument text, but this model does not support that. Or you have to store the argument text in the claim text, right? As we talked. So if you don't want to do that, if it is a common scenario, and that's the last interesting bit I think we ended on as well for me on last meeting, I think it is a common scenario that the user only enters argument text. It might mean we might need to support it in the model as well. We don't do that right now. And that's the potential nullable premise, but I don't think we need to do that now. But just to highlight, user interface functionality has such a big influence on the model.
Yeah, and by the way, this is one place where I don't think we agree fully. By the way, I agree that UX has huge influence on the model, but it shouldn't be too tightly coupled, right? And for example, when you say, "Oh, this is a layer 2," I'm saying, "Oh, it can be a separate UX layer," but I don't think it should be a separate data layer in some cases, and differently in the case of the formalization.
I mean, the way I would put that is, the way I'd put it is, it should be as tightly coupled as possible for the things we all agree we all want to support. And we need to build in flexibility exactly where we want to do it a different way, right? Yeah. That's exactly when you define layers, is where you need to find your flexibility. So
yeah. We had the generate negation sentence. Is that still something we want? Is that still something we put in the abstract claim? I think it goes in the abstract claim.
Well, okay, wait. Now, when we had, what you didn't put in here was the negation arrows I had. So this might be a point we still have to discuss.
I have
you know,
the
through our
abstract
discussions.
Negation
I have
field.
this here.
Yeah, I guess we were going with two parallel models for a long time. You know, and the question was, were we building the negation into the claim, or were we building, you know, were we having separate instances for the claim and its negation? And
Yeah,
although we kind of, I think, finally agreed, I can't remember the agreement we had.
I think we agreed
again,
on continuing with two separate models in parallel. And there should be indeed two, like Antoine.
There was a Tim1.svg. Let me look at it, but I think it's at this point quite ancient and quite not up to. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there we go.
String sentence, generate sentence, get sentence, and we had equivalent to. Okay, so maybe I should have started from this one. I don't know.
I think we need both. But if I recall correctly, both Timothy and I prefer to more like where the negation and the claim is stored in one, I think.
You know, I'm on the fence with that for reasons that I said, like right now, I don't actually care either way. It's future reasons that I think I saw coming up that I kind of wanted to separate negation from support, and a lot of I mean, a negation from the other claim. A lot of times it simplifies talking about things, other times not. So, you know, yeah, right now I don't care, but I think when certain circumstances come up, it's like I have a preference for one or the other.
Let me right now put the generate negation sentence in as a comment and go for simpler. I'm keeping negation as a field. It may become a materialized something. It may become something else. We'll come back.
But what is the statement method then, right? Oh no, okay, yeah, it's of this form and then the negation. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, because if you don't do it this way, then your support needs to be renamed to like argument, and you need to have a field that is, you know, support or oppose, and then needs to be that is the premise, the negation, or the regular form of the premise.
Which we did at some point, right? We have that model.
We did do that at some point, yes.
What's the Boolean in there? Boolean proves conclusion and support.
We have
so this is one I go ahead.
Well, it's the distinction between something that's an absolute support or a relative support, right? Is it necessary versus non-necessary condition, so to speak, or sufficient versus non-sufficient?
Yeah.
Versus
okay.
non-sufficient.
You can also comment out the statement functioning claim, by the way, since it's inherited, or add it to support for completeness. But
I would add it to support, actually. That would be cleaner, meaning it's overridden here. Maybe I should call it sufficient here instead of.
Yeah, I was wondering the same. Good idea.
Is sufficient then?
Yeah.
Variable name.
Now, my problem with that is I still believe in multi-premise support, and let's have this out. Now's the time to get there, I think.
Well, no, right. It's use case per use case. So we actually have to open the Excel sheet again. And for the same reason we added insufficient at some point was because it was a use case. If we're going to go to multi-premise, and that's probably the next one we need to pick up. But since it's Timothy's meeting.
I think those use cases were even approved at some point. So let's
multi-premise. I don't think we've done multi-premise yet.
I think we have. It's been a while.
I think it ended up in compound claims, and then we talked about equations and logic, and then everything exploded.
Yeah, I think we hit a wall where the small use cases were bringing up huge issues, and we just started talking about the huge issues which we haven't resolved, right? So I would be fine talking about multi-premise again, or yeah, I think we should talk about multi-premise. And like the thing I was going to present is like the continuation of the layer 2 mutually exclusive, which can come back again. But you know, I think it's important to discuss these big issues that we have right now, because I don't think we have much to add to the small model without resolving these big questions.
We have to push through it, I think.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So you guys want to do multi-premise or mutually exclusive?
I'm up for either, but I'd like to see the status of the
what
we claim to have implemented in this model. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
I'm on it. Sorry, I want.
No problem.
I know this is being recorded, so you know it's. So this was position support another claim. No, you're right. Multi-premise is not in the complaint.
I don't even think compound is in here yet. Is it?
Compound is multi-premise. Compound came up through the discussions on how to do multi-premise and how do we do formula and that sort of thing.
So it's maybe one we were working on.
In here.
So it's one we started working on and then went on a tangent, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's actually a whole document. Let me. Multi-premise claims. That's a document that Tim made.
Yeah, and this has evolved. I mean, I haven't put in anything about the forms and compound. This is I'll need to kind of rewrite it. There's some interesting examples in there, but I don't think we're missing.
Okay, but then we can just pick up where we started the meeting indeed and go over it again.
I'm surprised that we don't have multiple meaning, multi-premise and okay. Oh yeah, they were there, multi-premise and argument, and they're even completed. Okay, I was not totally.
Yeah, well, the multi-premise or I remember was resolved through, well, it's irrelevant. It's just multiple arguments supporting the same claim. That's the or.
The thing is, it was resolved at some point when we had compound claim and we had even vaguely agreed on.
No, you don't need compound claim for the or. For the
but
or,
I think that's how we implemented it.
It's two arguments.
But we had a point where we were saying, oh yeah, this is how we'll do and an or. We had this.
Yeah.
We did say it.
But I don't think this junction and conjunction was ever marked as completed. I think that's something that got added
that was
ad
work
hoc,
that was work in progress.
But the compound claim itself, I think, might have been there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's where we were at. That we said like, okay, a compound claim is simply the and case, and then if you want or, you simply add multiple supports with. I think that's why we ended.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
And it was acceptable because we were only considering one use case, right?
And the conjunction disjunction was a proposal I had made. I agree. Yeah, that was the status.
And then we said, I think you can have a compound claim that is sufficient, which would be the syllogism. And you can have also compound claims where you just have multi-premise, basically, where you list a bunch of stuff that works together, but it doesn't necessarily have to be sufficient. And that's, I think, why we added the sufficient flag.
I'm just curious. Compound claim abstract. Why is that not below? Oh dear. Anyway, sorry, I'm just, if it's plenty UML layout algorithm still puzzles me. Yeah. And now I'm thinking more and more, I'd rather have multi-premise argument than compound claims, and this is part of our ongoing disagreement.
No, I still think it's a second layer.
Oh, I'm absolutely, see, you've convinced me that.
Oh, I have.
That, one second, let me say what you've convinced me of.
Okay.
That a view where the composition was hidden was perfectly useful and appropriate. But I certainly don't want this to leak into the data layer. But anyway, that's what you have convinced me of, and that's what you haven't convinced me of.
Yeah, I'm not certain I understand the distinction, but
no, I'm saying as a UX affordance, it's useful.
Yeah, exactly.
As a data layer, I think it's detrimental. As a separation of data layers, I think it's detrimental. As a separation of in the UX, yes.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, we talked about it. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's what you haven't convinced me of.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. And you, Timothy, what is your stand on compound claim as is modeled right now?
There, it's insufficient, but in the long term for certain structures. But yeah, what we were talking about is Marc-Antoine convincing me that we want multi-premise as opposed to compound claim.
Yeah, I've admitted compound is necessary as part of progressive formalization. So that's, for me, compound claim is not going away. But I would, the same way I said, let's translate multi conjunction
mutual exclusive.
No, associative, tree conjunction into list conjunction. I also say let's translate compound claim into multi-premise support. Why is that? Let me remember my reasons. It's up to a point, it's Tim's reason, saying you don't argue against a compound claim, you argue against one of the atoms. And so the compound claim is not something you argue about so much, and that makes it less of a claim. Mm-hmm. It's an artifact of the formalization process. Whereas you can argue about, is this really one of the premise of this support or not, that, or isn't this the premise of the support? And that's why is this support a proper composition or not? And this is precisely why I would say compound claims are an intermediate structure that we would translate to multi-premise support on the front.
How would you materialize a multi-premise support? Because isn't it the same problem? Support is a claim, so you can also support and oppose support.
You can support and oppose the support, but that's totally different. It's about saying, is this a sound support? It's not about saying, is the compound true as a whole? Is this combination of premise a proper support for the conclusion, which is a totally different thing.
Oh yeah. Okay, so compound claim arguing for or against would be, is this true as a whole? Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and Tim convinced me that this was not so useful as a unit.
I think we're not so far off from each other because I think, as I said before, like you pointed out, you don't argue for or against a compound claim. And in order for it to be useful, it needs to be used as the premise of a support, right? Is how I see it, which means that compound claim begs the necessity of a support. Maybe it begs the necessity of more than one support, which is the first question here is,
you know what I'm about to do? A 180. You just convinced me otherwise. But go on.
It made you think. I think convincing is hard work if you do a 180 one time to the next.
Well, no, I go back and forth on this too. I think we're talking about fine distinctions that are, So, but yeah, one question is, let's say you've assembled a compound claim. Is it common that you will want to use that as multiple supports for multiple situations?
Yes, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, so that's one question. Another question is, if we model it as multi-premise, you no longer have a simple premise attribute of the support. You're going to need to have a structure that defines how many you need in the relationship from them and everything, which is essentially a compound, or it's some other structure, which is going to be some other class that, in other words, a composition of some kind of abstract class or something that's going to have to fit in there.
There's a question right now if it's a claim or not.
No, well, maybe.
It could be.
For me,
you're right, I think. Is the compound claim treated? And my answer is yes, by the way. Okay. Do you want to, should I go back to my reasons for turning 180 degrees, or do you want to finish?
Sure, go for it.
It reminded me of the conversation we had on formulas. And you remember you said, oh, the formula, if you agree on this premise and this premise and this premise, you have to agree with the conclusion. And I said, no, I have to agree that those premises lead to the conclusion, but that doesn't mean I agree with the conclusion. I can disagree independently of the conclusion, even if it's not part of another support, and say that means something is wrong somewhere. We're using the wrong formula, one of the premises is wrong, whatever, but I can disagree independently with the conclusion. And it's true that when I think compound claim as purely conjunction, it's so simple that I'm tempted to say, why would you bother to disagree with the conjunction without disagreeing with an atom? But when the formula get more complex, when the compounds get more complex, it makes sense to say, no, I may disagree with the conclusion without disagreeing with an atom. Maybe I can say this is not the right composition. It shouldn't be a full end. Maybe it should be something else. So that's one reason. And the other reason I thought of recently,
wait, let me pause on that for a second.
Cool.
That you can do that in the support. If you're doing a multi-premise claim, you do that opposing the support by saying, oh, this multi-premise argument makes no sense because your formula is messed up.
Yeah, but that requires the existence of a support. And what I'm saying is I can do that even if I don't have a support downstream. It makes sense for me to say the conclusion.
This is where we've disagreed. This is where we've disagreed.
And this one I'm not budging for, because it's, I can say this is false, and I don't need for it to be this is false because I'm using it for something else. It's just I have to say why I believe it's false, but that's an upstream, not a downstream. I don't need a downstream to oppose something.
I think you need a downstream to say that an equation is wrong. You need to say what it's being used for. Otherwise, it's just an equation. It's a set of variables.
No, I'm not opposing the equation. I'm opposing the application of this equation to this initial data yields a result. And I'm saying, I think the result is wrong. I don't know yet whether it's because one of the input is wrong, or the formula is not the right one, or the formula is misapplied, there's a computational error. It could
but this is all misapplied to what? That's all downstream. That's all downstream stuff. It's misapplied to
that's
what?
all upstream
it's incorrect
stuff.
For what?
No, that's all upstream.
I didn't know which way your stream goes, but yeah.
From premise to conclusion.
Okay.
That's all upstream stuff. What I'm saying is I don't need for this n number result of the formula to be, oh, and by the way, this result proves something else, is the premise of something else. Even if that doesn't exist, I can still oppose, because, and I should have reasons. I should say, well, I don't think this premise is right because blah, blah, blah. But that's, again, upstream of why I don't believe the conclusion, why I don't believe the result.
I don't see that. I don't see that. I can't imagine. I can't imagine you.
I'm just doing it.
Seeing a formula and saying the formula is, no, you're doing it abstractly. You're saying, oh, it should be possible.
And what's wrong with that?
You haven't convinced me it's possible, because I don't think it happens in practice.
It's a speech.
I don't think it happens.
It's possible because I just enunciated it. It's possible because I said those words. You don't need any more proof than that.
Your words are not the same thing. No, your words are not the same thing as the structure you're proposing. You're representing your structure by making words about a situation that could happen, but it doesn't happen.
What do you mean it doesn't happen? It just did.
Maybe you're talking about different use cases. Maybe Marc-Antoine is talking about like having a kind of model formula that relates natural observations or whatever, and Timothy is talking about something else.
Right. I wouldn't. Basically, I won't accept this until I see an example where.
I'm sorry. I'm giving you an example, and you refuse my example. It's
process
different.
Because
okay, I'm not understanding your example. Then please give me an example.
I can rephrase my example. Yes, sure.
But didn't we have a process where each time we discussed the change in the model, there was a concrete example in the row? So I don't get why.
Let me write down
we're
the
deviating
example.
a lot by like now we're
write down your example.
Formulas and.
I'll write down the example. But the problem is we're talking about formulas, and formulas are quite downstream of this. But still, the question is, I can oppose compound claims value, even if it's not used as the premise of a support. And
give me an example. That's not an example. Yeah, that's the use case.
That's a use case. You're right. That's not the example. The example goes here. So if I say,
what is a compound claim value?
I can say the compound claim is true or false. Truth value, I should say. I can oppose a compound claim.
Yeah, period, right?
Yep, you're right. That's simpler.
But isn't in the current model, isn't that what you do by adding an opposing like a supported and whatever negation? If you oppose a compound claim, isn't this that?
Yeah. Well, let's take the.
Oh, okay, but this is a discussion, in other words, where we're talking about that the current model is wrong or not.
It could be. The point is, I don't have to know. And that's the point I keep making. Let's take the Socrates model example. I could oppose the conclusion before specifying whether I disagree with one of the premises, the modus ponens.
The compound claim is not the conclusion. The compound claim would be the two, Socrates is a man and
Well, that's a claim. You're right. And so that's not a right example, a proper example. Good point, Stephen. Right. Thank you. And it's the opposite of what I want to do. And the problem is, in the conjunction, it makes no sense, but in the formula, it does.
But we don't have formulas yet.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a bit.
Again, you know that my pet peeve with this whole compound claims is that it edges towards formulas / proofs / what I would call like second layer functionality, which is where my hesitation comes from with having them in a base layer in the first place.
And there I agree. That is something that should be in a different layer. Yeah. Okay, but by the way, I had a second use case for compound claims, which I think I can give a better example for, and I think is interesting for all of us. Can I go through? So this is in progress.
So a compound claim actually, if we're going to use terminology that's in use, in argumentation theory, it would be called the linked argument. I think it would be a linked claim or something. Linked claims. It would be like claims that conjunctively work in order to make an argument. Like you need them, and in that case, it would always be.
What?
Well, the point is you wouldn't use them independently. I think that's the main reason why we modeled it as it is, and it's always been modeled like that in previous models in Dong and in all the other ones. You have some type of representation of linked arguments.
Okay. I'm not sure I understand what linked argument means. So let's
linked argument is one where you need all premises for the argument to succeed.
It's yes. your syllogisms example. All men are mortal.
Yeah,
Socrates is mortal, right? So and it's linked claims because you need both. But if in a base layer atomic situation, you choose one of the two to be the direct support, and the other would support the support.
Well, if we decide, I'm arguing for that base layer, I see the benefit in it, but the question is whether or not we want to have linked arguments in a base layer or not, right? And for the sake of compound claim being that linked thing, I think that was the main use case for adding it.
Right.
But we can keep calling it compound claim just for relating it to other work. So it is in essence a what do you call it, a compound claim or a multi-premise argument? It's essentially the same. It's multiple premises working together to prove a conclusion.
Yeah, and I'm giving a new use case, totally independent. A disjunctive compound claim can be used as a conclusion of a support. So that's a dilemma situation. The street is wet, so either it rained or there was a fire and the fire department hosed the street. And maybe there's other possibilities, but I'm posing a dilemma.
What is a disjunctive compound claim?
Or either this or that.
It's not even either, it could be both.
Okay, so but isn't that going
yes.
counter what we've been calling a compound claim? Because a compound claim is an and, so now you're saying it's not an and, it's an or?
Well, that's why
what I see here is I see two mutually exclusive claims, both being supported by the street is wet. One of the claims is a compound claim, right? Which is, so it rained is one claim. The other compound claim, right? There was a fire and the fire department hosed the street.
Yeah.
And both are supported by the street is wet.
Yeah. And you want to say that one of these two, maybe there should be more, but let's suppose there's only these two possibilities for argument's sake. One of these two must be true. So if it did not rain, then the other must be true. Like there's this, the mutually exclusive case also means that proving all the other alternatives wrong makes this one right, which is not the same as just saying A supports, A supports B and also A supports C independently.
Yeah, it's saying a lot more. It's adding logic to the model. It's
adding a lot of logic. So what I'm saying is this is actually a useful use case. It's dilemma, right? Argument by dilemma. I should actually prefix that. It's either, if you're not accepting this one, you have to accept this one because both, like the disjunction, one or the other is the conclusion of this premise fact. Street is wet. So either it rained or either, and there's a lot of arguments of that structure. That's a very basic use case. And I think it shows the another case where another kind of compound claim, not a disjunctive compound claim, but a conjunctive compound claim has to be the target of a support. Now, maybe there's another way to model it, but it's another reason to have compound claims as primitives.
So this is, so what here you're referring to, there was a fire and the fire department hosed the street. Is that what you're referring to as a compound claim here? So that's already an interesting case because it's not.
Or the fire.
Well, let me put it this way. Stephen, would you consider this to be an atomic claim?
Which one?
There was a fire.
No,
either there was a
fire department.
Corrected it.
No, either it rained or there was a fire and the fire department hosed the street. Oh yeah, there was a fire. No. Sorry, and here.
Yeah. Okay, but I wanted to start simpler with. Okay,
let's just forget that there was a fire or someone hosed the street.
But that was the interesting part for me.
Okay, sure. I
just want to know what Stephen would do with. There was a fire and the fire department hosed the street.
But those are two separate claims. You can't use and because
you wouldn't
negation,
allow that in the system.
Because the negation becomes also hard to reason about. I mean, yes, in logic you can, but I wouldn't allow it. No. Okay. I would say there was a fire. It's one claim. Fire department hosting the street. It's another claim. But I mean, all of this is logic. If you're thinking of why do you want to model this, and you keep saying it while arguing why this is useful, is because if you have expressed belief in one or the other and you believe in this argument, then you can find conflicts in your reasoning. That's what this is useful for. I think all of these are separate use cases than simply centralizing disagreement is what I keep calling it. And it's definitely useful to do, but I think we need to separate them as two models. And how we do that is another discussion. But
yeah, and I don't think separating them as UX, I see the point, but separating them as models, I absolutely don't see the point.
Well, or we need to have some translation that you can render the centralized disagreement from the other, or etc., something along those lines.
Well, yeah, but the translation has to be from the the full model to the lossy model. And sorry, I'm going to call your model lossy.
It is lossy. You don't have to be sorry. I'm arguing for a lossy model because of well,
but what I'm saying, before. It makes no sense to base the non-lossy model in the lossy model because it's
it's not based on it.
No, but the question of layer, right? Okay, it makes no sense to have the lossy model as the core layer.
But it's a different, the lossy model is one that just shows all relevant information. The enhanced model adds context, and yes, it means
no, it doesn't add. That's what I'm contradicting. The non-lossy model has context, and the lossy model erases it. What I'm unwilling to do is to put the lossy model as the base layer and the non-lossy above it. I'm saying you have the non-lossy at the base and the lossy as a lossy translation of it.
Yeah, I'm fine with either. But okay. I mean, I'm fine with either, but what it implies is that there is a model that at some point which stores the lossy model. And that's the one that I think we should agree on. And how you get there, whether that's a translation, or it really doesn't matter. The point is that is a model that needs to be rendered by user interface at some point.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure it needs to be a data model. It needs to be rendered by user interface, absolutely. But
yeah, but that is a data model. I mean,
does it have to be?
It might be a view model for all. I don't care. It's something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's data that at a certain point has that state
it's useful data. It's useful data. It's useful to express it as such. I agree with that. I'm not saying. I'm saying it doesn't have to be a data model. But you're right in a way, because you can, and just as I'm saying, this is a speech act, I'm doing it, you will build a data model that will only store this much, and we have to find a way to use that somehow.
So yeah, whether that's what you store in your database, or you store what you call the non-lossless model, and then you generate the lossy one, or it shouldn't really matter. We only need to agree on what it is that the user interface represents. How you get that data, whether it's derived from a perfect model or not, I couldn't give less right now.
That's really interesting. Do we have to agree on UX? Seriously, I mean, that's a real question. We have to agree on, in the sense that if we have to agree, okay, your UX is a valid use case, and the data model has to have enough information for this UX. And I have a totally different UX, and it's a valid use case, so the data model has to have adequate representation for my UX. But I don't think we have to agree on UX. UX is precisely what we are going to vary on. What we have to agree on is the data model. What we don't have to agree on is the UX, because we'll each build our different UX and differentiate our products on UX.
Yeah, agreed. We only have to agree on UX if we build a product together. Else, everybody can do whatever they want.
Yeah, but if you want to have some minimal interchange of data, that's
exactly.
what you need to agree on, and that's what I'm arguing. The lossless model is the one that I want to agree on, because that's the main use case that I want to support. And I see all the logic and stuff. When I'm building Socrates, I'm modifying it rather to use a new model. I really don't want to start looking at syllogisms and compound claims. I want to receive the lossless data. Sorry, the lossy data, as you call it. That's the data I need, and that's the data that I want to also upload to a shared backend.
No, and there I'm a hard disagreement. I'm saying we should be agreeing on the full model, and there'll be a translation layer, and it can be inside your application or in a module outside that does the translation. But
you can translate from a lossy model to a. That's impossible. That's
yeah, well, and that's exactly why I don't want the lossy model to be the base. Because the only model I care about is the non-lossy one. Personally, I understand you care about the other one. It's fine, but the only one I care about is the non-lossy one.
Okay. It might make sense to have like a simple argument, have the. And actually, that's what Timothy suggested before. I think when we have the like for each use case, we have the translation to like another base layer. It might make sense that we pick one argument to do exactly that, and then look for compound claims, what that would look like.
That's a perfectly useful use of our time, and I'm perfectly willing to do that.
Right. And I was going to continue that with mutually exclusive, but
yes,
we can look at it for, I mean, but first we kind of have to, there's two ways to do that for the compound claims. Either each person propose their own compound claim and mapping, or we talk it out and agree on what's the best form for the compound claim, and then we come up with the mapping.
Well, I think right now what we're doing is kind of what are the use cases for compound claim? And I think it's useful to keep doing that so that when we do each our own modeling, we are at least aware of the other people's use cases.
Yep. And even just expressing what are the use cases, like what are the use cases of compound claim? And I keep hearing, oh, it's logic, basically. It's to make proofs and
well, it's for me, it's to express. It's not about scoring, as you say. But for example, for me, the dilemma is something that people express, and I want to have a formal structure that reflects what people are expressing. And if they're expressing logic, I want to reflect that. And in this case, dilemma is a common argumentative move. It's in every bloody rhetoric textbook. Yeah. It's a very important use case.
Yeah, but nobody's arguing that it's not useful. The question is it useful outside of a base layer which just shows more atomic stuff, basically?
The dilemma is not, in my mind, a compound claim.
Okay, that's interesting.
The dilemma is the mutually exclusive claim structure.
Okay, let's talk about the mutually exclusive.
I think it's greater or equal than 1 formula. Like,
well, yeah, that's what happens is you say it's a false dichotomy, and then you throw on new ones, and you got mutually exclusive claims, right?
No, I've
for
no
me, it's
problem
just
with
the abstraction is you have a whole bunch of premises, and based on the input of those premises, you have an outcome for the conclusion, basically, and it shows you based on your scoring. That's why I keep calling it scoring, whether or not you should believe the conclusion. That's for me, it's the abstraction is a proof, be it a compound, be it a dilemma, be it some funky function that does all kinds of weird stuff. And for me, it's separate from
it ends
claims.
up being a support. You're trying to support a conclusion through some sort of structured collection of premises. And we know, I don't know if we need it. We know it's a natural thing to do because we do know that linked claims, linked premises, or what did you call it? Linked claims?
I think linked arguments, I think in theory.
Okay, so linked arguments is a part of argumentation that we would like to support in a more elegant way if possible.
Yes. Just a thing on the mutually exclusive claim. I really want to hear you out on this, Tim, but I think it goes beyond that in the sense, if you say A, B, C, D are mutually exclusive, and if I disprove A, B, C, then D certainly, that's one thing. And that's a thing in itself, and it's a structure in itself, and it's worth discussing. But if I'm saying X shows that one of A, B, C, D is true, right? The mutually exclusive, maybe none of them are true up to a point, right? Because we haven't proven the mutually exclusive structure yet. Like there's a case where either of A, B, C, D is true if X. So X is a support for, well, there's a support argument that links the X premise to the ABCD mutually exclusive collection. And this is maybe not a compound claim, but it's a compound something, which it's a structure which furthermore has mutual exclusion, but or furthermore has, maybe they're not even exclusive, right? Maybe there's overlap, but certainly if all but one are false, then the last one must be true. But given that the collection is true, and that is a separate thing.
Okay, this segues right into, I know we're at the hour, past the hour. This segues right into what I was gonna show about mutual exclusion. I don't know if you wanna take that as an opportunity.
Well, okay, I have a hard stop in 25 minutes. How are the other ones? Is that enough?
I'm basically now, but you can continue.
I have time today. It is
I
Tuesday.
have no incredibly hard stop other than I need to get food at some point, but I'm fine.
Yeah.
Actually, my hard stop is at the hour, so I could eat and listen.
Okay, let me just present the example, because I think that talks exactly to the things.
Yeah.
And then if we start to go into details, let's table it. And then Felix, if you want to take it up tomorrow, we'll take it up tomorrow. But it would be a good chance to show the example. Can you stop sharing so I can? Okay. All right. So as a quick refresher, and for all our viewers out there who didn't see the previous episodes, we have a set of what I proposed are mutually exclusive claims, which, an answer to a question that's open-ended would produce this sort of situation where you have multiple options. It's in this case, there's 3 answers that people have given. It's not a dilemma. It's more than that. I pointed out that there could be redundancy as people start using an argument for one side and also applying it as an argument against another. I showed that actually each one of these options basically serves as an opposition to the others. We should go there. No, we should go to the other place. Okay. We talked about this new structure, the mutually exclusive claims set, that can help resolve it. Actually, one of the realizations by going through this that I kind of put in the writing, but a lot of this work can be done through curation in the base layer. It's a little more work, but what this structure implies is there is sort of an optimal way to organize this in the base layer as well, right? Because you clean up all the extra arguments by just making each of the options oppose each other, and then you can just focus on supporting one of the options, and that does the job of opposing the other. Anyway, so you can create this set, you throw in all the claims that you consider to be mutually exclusive in that set, and then supporting one of those options automatically opposes the others. And Stephen wisely pointed out that there are examples like the comparison where you're only referring to 2 of the items in the set, in which case you have to have a support of one and oppose of the other. So then I propose the mapping. The basic mapping, after going through all of this, really all that you need is something that's in a mutually exclusive set. You can map it to the base layer by creating opposes to all the other ones, and that does it. You also might want to clean up, spurious arguments if you're going back the other way. This is something I said, there could actually be a reverse mapping, that your system could intuit a mutually exclusive relationship if you find there's a cycle of claims that all seem to oppose each other. And now we get to what I was working on after our meeting. No, that's just simplifying arguments. Okay, so the question that was brought up, well, how does this work when you have a much more complex structure in your claims? The example that we had actually was the laboratory COVID escaping from a lab. And it's like, well, the Chinese released it on purpose from their lab where they created it. Well, you've actually got several different claims going on there. You've got, was it created in a lab or wasn't it? Was it created by the Chinese, or was it, was it released on purpose, or was it an accident? So all these kind of fit into somehow this mutually exclusive structure, where an argument towards one should oppose automatically the other cases. So I started kind of thinking through how that would work. For the one about going out to dinner, one of the examples that came up of the false dichotomy is, well, we should go to the pizza place, we should go to the burger place, or we should go to the sushi place. Well, what if we were to go to both? What if we were going to go to 2 of these? That's another solution. So it's mutually exclusive. You can't go to only one and go to two. But then it creates this whole explosion of possibilities, and it creates some other complications. And so I started trying to go through those complications. So, okay, we should have pizza then burgers, or we should have burgers then pizza, or we should have sushi and pizza. So one is an ordered, here's another example that's not even ordered. It's just like, I don't care which, we should have those two things. And there's arguments here, you know, that can throw kind of a wrench in the clean, oh, you only need to support one of them. Whatever we have, sushi should come first. Okay, well, that's going to support any of these that have to do with not sushi, right? It kind of supports this one that doesn't care about order, but it might oppose one that has sushi second.
It's compatible with this one.
Yeah. And there's an interesting question right here, which is, if you say we should have sushi and pizza, this is essentially, you know, a compound claim here. But we should have dinner at the sushi place. Does it support this? It kind of does, depending on the arguments that you're using, because there's a lot of arguments that we should have sushi.
It depends on context. It depends on context whether or not you're allowed to go to two places. That's what's missing, right?
Well, there's an argument here. If you're not allowed to go to two places, then there's an argument that we can only go to one place, and that defeats all the ones that are more than one place. So thinking through that, then we kind of talked about composition, right? And I haven't gone through how this maps to the base layer, but I think it kind of does, but I would have to do the mapping here. Essentially, you have two groups of mutually exclusive claims, and the two groups mutually oppose each other. So you have the group that is, we should go to just one place. And you have another group that is, we can go to more than one place. And so there's arguments about, here, we should only, anything that's supporting, we should only go to one place is going to support everything in here and oppose everything in here, right? So again, if you're looking at trying to get efficiencies, you need to extract that, but you could extract just another claim that's going to kind of support groups or not. But then there's kind of these other mutually exclusive solutions, which is, okay, we should only go to one place, or we should go to more than one place, or we should order in, right? If somebody says, no, we should order in, it's opposing this, and it's opposing this. It's also opposing these kind of generalizations of the other set. And in looking at this, I looked at an argument down below here. We don't have enough time to go to more than one place. That's the one you're talking about, Stephen, right? So this is opposing, no, this is supporting the group of solutions that is only one place, right? But it also supports the we should order in, which is also mutually exclusive from all this other stuff. There's also this one. There's no way to please everyone at a single restaurant, right? Which supports that we should go to more than one place. But it can still support we should order in. And so looking at that, I was like, you know, it seems to me there's another level or layer here of mutual exclusion. And I think it's interesting, an indication that having one argument that supports a couple within the group might be a heuristic of maybe there's a higher level of mutual exclusion going on here. So then I went another layer up, and this was what I was trying to write up when we started the meeting. But essentially the top level would be maybe we should go out or we should stay in. And then you can have debates about that. And then once you've decided we should go out, then you can have on we should go to one place or we should go to multiple places. I didn't finish drawing out these arguments, and I would like to. But yeah, there is this aspect of one mutually exclusive group opposes another, and one argument can suffice to support all of the options in one group and oppose all of the options in another group, which means composability seems interesting here.
These people might starve in the process.
That's a fair point.
No, yeah, if they're gonna map it out, especially, but
I've certainly been in conversations like this where we were starving in the process. I must admit, contributing a lot to that, but with my gluten-free constraint, which was making a lot of choices impossible. Okay. First, I remember talking about lattices of distinctions, and what you're drawing to me very much looks like a lattice structure, feature lattices. And it makes sense to me that every choice is a lattice, like is a node in a lattice. I don't know if there's always a mutually exclusive set where you claim there is, but that's okay. I mean, these are, mutual exclusion is tentative, right? Oh, we could also come, some people could go out, some people could order in, right? But that's okay. We start by thinking those things are mutually exclusive, and then we realize. And there's another case that's interesting. It's the fire and rain case I gave, which are not mutually exclusive, but one must be true. So these have to be true together. So at least one must be true, even though.
Except that it doesn't. That's a false dichotomy, right? Because somebody could have thrown a bucket out the window, for example. It's a
yeah. We can add possibilities, absolutely. But what I'm saying is there are cases where we have an enumeration of cases. One of them must be true. They're not necessarily, they may or may not be mutually exclusive. So mutual exclusion is a case, but compound this conjunction is another case, which is also interesting. And all those are tentative. Like the mutual exclusion, sometimes like negation, in the case of negation, it's very clear. Negation is pretty much built on mutual exclusion. So one place, more than one place, if to break that dichotomy, I have to break out the we. We have to all agree on choices.
Yeah, you have to agree on the what I call the context, like because it's interesting you mentioned negation as an example, because that's like either you believe it or you don't believe it. That's not true. It can also depend on undefined contexts, and indeed it could be here we should go out, we should order in is a mutual exclusion, but indeed it could all it assumes that you should stay together. Yep. And that's implied here, but it's ambiguous because it's not defined, meaning, oh, well, it depends because we don't have to.
So basically, we're defining a new node above, which is we should stay together. And if we should stay together, the we should go out, we should order in becomes a dichotomy.
Exactly.
But if we're not in that context, it's not a dichotomy. They're independent choices.
So it's context specific. That's what I meant before by saying that.
Right.
And this is why it's a lattice. And this is why it's a lattice. But here it's even stranger than that, because we should go out, we should order in, they exist outside of the lattice. So there's a difference between we should go out, we should order in, we should all go out, we should all order in. So these are different nodes, I guess. These are different nodes. But I'm thinking there can be cases where they're the same nodes, which are found in under two different, there's where it becomes a 2x2, right? Where it becomes a cross matrix. Not in this case.
Can I quickly summarize? It's because of modeling concerns like this that I always think a base layer should be a lot more flexible. And this is the purpose of a base layer, because you can always, like, even if you model this correctly and somebody has done that, I think the purpose of a base layer, which doesn't have these formalisms, is exactly to have a way out if you disagree that this formalism that's on top of it is correct. And that's, for me, the purpose of the base layer. It's centralizing this agreement. You always need to be able to disagree with something that's modeled here.
The point you're making, and I think you are correct there, is that it should be possible to have to say, you know, we don't know how things are compounded, but we do know these are factors. And it should be possible to express just that.
Exactly.
And there I'm with you.
Otherwise, per formalization, you need to start adding mechanisms to be able to falsify them somehow. And I want a base layer that's just inherently falsifiable. Sure, it doesn't have logic. It doesn't have these fancy formalisms where you can derive a lot of things, but it does allow you always to go back to the base layer and complain, if you will.
Yeah, but this is equivalent to saying we have incremental formalization. I could say, you know, here's a bunch of things. They come together in some unknown formula to be formalized later, and we get the...
Yes, but do you see that it's the more formalized layer building on top of the...
In this case, yes.
One okay, so that was my point.
Yep. No. I see. But I'm also saying the fact that there is a layer, not in your sense, but in the sense that there's a layer in the data model between the atomic premises and the conclusion, where we say, here is the combination. And that layer, I say, let's force it there, even if we say, oh, at this point, the combination is unknown and undefined and undetermined. But I'd say, let's have this object there so that then we can formalize it as a different layer. If we just erase it and say these premises are connected to the conclusion without this black box, gray box, then it's harder to add the structure as another layer later. You see what I'm saying?
I think I do.
Okay, we may be converging. That's good.
No, I'm not saying I'm agreeing. I think.
Yeah, but we may be. Okay, fair enough.
We'd have to walk through examples.
Yes, but I get your point. I did say I'm not interested in the case of without structure, but that doesn't mean that was a bit strong. I see the point of being able to express without the structure, because the agreement on the structure is a separate process. There, I'm with you. So maybe we don't.
On another note, I mean, this is great work, and
yes,
a lot of this makes sense.
Yes.
But this is way ahead of, I mean, I think we should do exactly this that you did now, Timothy, but with compound claims. Just as a matter of, can a compound claim similarly be mapped to a base layer? What would that look like? And then examples. And then we can talk about whether or not you want to store it in the lossy layer or not. So we have concrete examples.
But actually, I'm not sure they're distinct in the sense that right now, Tim's mutually exclusive things, for me, we may take them as a variety of composition. Like right now I had conjunction, disjunction. Maybe we can just say, oh, that's another way of composing claims. We have a structure where at least, all the claims are, one of the claims must be true and only one, for example, or, whatever combination. And those are different composition formula between the claims. So maybe this is about composition beyond simple propositional calculus, because mutual exclusion is another thing.
Or whatever you fancy in a higher level system.
Fair enough.
I'm dropping out, guys. Are you?
Yeah, I think it's a good time
tomorrow.
Felix? Yes. Yeah, I'll be there.
Tim? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just throwing, am I on mute? No, I'm open. Yeah, I was just throwing in here that this is actually a compound claim right here. It's a multi-premise. These are linked premises in this case, which is an interesting twist on the
what I'm saying is your mutually exclusive claim set, it's just another form of composition. Not all compounds are disjunctions. So this is a conversation about compound claims.
Or context.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I don't think the mapping that we would define for a compound claim is going to be the same as the mapping
I'm out, guys.
defined for mutually exclusive. Bye.
Okay, see you tomorrow.